In today's video, I'm going to show you all of the Criterion Collection titles that I picked up during last month, July, which is when the famous Barnes & Noble 50% off sale was going on. Now, unfortunately, Barnes & Noble do not ship directly to the UK. I got these from Boutique Home Video, who I'm going to talk about a bit later in the video. For now, let's get on to the films themselves. This first one had a lot of people excited. This might just be one of the biggest 4K titles from Criterion this year. It's After Hours, the Martin Scorsese movie from the 1980s. This one has been absent from home video for so long. It never even got a Blu-ray disc. So to have it here from a 4K restoration is just absolutely beautiful. This was actually my first time watching the film because I'm one of those stubborn people who just waits for a high quality copy of a movie before actually watching it, because there's so much stuff to watch. You know, I'm not going to watch a low quality copy of a movie. But thankfully I can say not only is the film excellent, the way it looks on the 4K disc from Criterion is just superb. I think it's fair to say this is one of those underrated Scorsese films that not a lot of people would talk about, but in recent times it has become a firm fan favourite. Griffin Dunne plays this average guy working in an office who ends up meeting this girl late at night, and he stays up the whole night and goes on this absolute odyssey through the night. It's really bizarre, quite nightmarish at times, makes me quite anxious. And a lot of people have said this is the kind of film that the Safdie brothers would absolutely be so inspired by, because it's very much like Uncut Gems in its level of anxiety. The features are great, audio commentary from Scorsese. There's a new conversation between Fran Lebowitz and Scorsese. So there's lots to get into here. And surely this is going to be very near the top of many people's best of lists this year. The next thing that I bought was another 4K disc. This was an upgrade of The Fisher King from Terry Gilliam. This is one that I was a bit skeptical of because I wasn't sure how much of an upgrade this was going to be over the older Blu-ray, which, surprise, looks exactly the same, has exactly the same special features. So a lot is riding on the 4K presentation for these upgrades because you don't get anything else new. Now, thankfully, I can say that the 4K restoration on this compared to the old 2K version on the Blu-ray is just head and shoulders above the older presentation. Everything just looks a lot richer in the image, a lot more detail from the 4K restoration, and the Dolby Vision grade on the disc really enhances all of the colours in this movie because, like other Terry Gilliam movies, it is very colourful. I've seen this film a number of times now, and while it's not my favourite of the filmmakers, it is growing on me over time, and I think that's because of the chemistry between the actors, Jeff Bridges, Robin Williams, New York City, the cinematography in this movie. So I'm very happy that this does improve over the older Blu-ray, because otherwise it would have been a very dissatisfying experience. Keeping with the 4Ks now, another 4K upgrade from Criterion. It's Branded to Kill from Seijun Suzuki. This is from a new 4K restoration of the film, which previously had a Blu-ray from Criterion that came out 12 years ago. So that was quite an old disc at that point. There was also a disc from Arrow Video, which is the one I've got here. Again, this was a very old disc as well. So the question is, even after all that time, has a 4K restoration improved how this film looks over those older discs? No word of a lie, this is the best 4K upgrade that I've seen from Criterion so far. Even better than Dazed and Confused, which I thought was a very good upgrade from them. But this film on the 4K just looks absolutely incredible. In terms of black and white films on the 4K format, it's up there with Double Indemnity. It's up there with those Hitchcock classic movies from the second box set. It really looks absolutely amazing, which I'm very happy to say because this doesn't have an HDR grade on there, which for some people is controversial because people think that a 4K disc should have HDR. And personally, I've come to learn that over time, it depends. It depends on the restoration and how the film looks. Some of these restorations are done without high dynamic range in mind. And I can say that honestly, the lack of HDR on this disc doesn't really affect my opinion of it clearly, because I think it just looks so good. If you are a fan of this film and you have the older discs, whether it's the Arrow Video UK disc or the Criterion Blu-ray from 12 years ago, this is an absolute must upgrade. For me, this is one of the best 4K discs that I've seen this year. And if I can just say a bit about the film itself, this is such an iconoclastic movie from the time. Seijun Suzuki was making films in this studio system in Japan, but he was a maverick. He wanted to push the boundaries, experiment with different types of editing, very kind of new wave inspired. And this is a film that has garnered not just a cult appreciation, but is now considered a classic of world cinema. Before I move on to these other Blu-rays, let me just quickly talk about boutique home video, because like I said, here in the UK, it's very hard to get hold of these Criterion discs from America. You can get all of these titles and hundreds more from their website, which I'll link in the video description. All of these titles are on sale on there right now, and there's further discounts if you spend over £50 or £100. So you can get these for great prices here in the UK, and they will ship them out to you within a couple of days. They've told me these offers won't be on for long, so do go over there now if you want to get these films for those good prices. They also have some of the region-free Criterion titles. Yes, there are a few of them, like Come and See and War and Peace. You can get these from them right now, and you can play them even if you're not multi-region. Anyway, let's move on to what else I picked up last month. This next one is such a wonderful short movie. I mean, it's a feature film, but it's a short one. It is Petit Mama from Céline Sciamma. This is her follow-up to Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which brought her massive success on the world cinema stage. This is much more of a quiet movie about this young girl connecting with her mother as her mother is going through a period of grief after losing her mother. Sorry, I've told that in a very confusing way, but it's a very touching story. A great film, I think, for all the family, really, even though it is dealing with difficult issues around losing a family member. The film looks great on the Blu-ray. It's an improvement over the UK disc that was released by Mubi, which has some pretty poor compression. And I know Criterion usually isn't the best with compression, but here this disc is definitely better than the UK Mubi Blu-ray, which looked really ugly in certain darker sequences. Rounding out the package, there is an interview between Sciamma and Joachim Trier, the great director, talking about the process of making this film and how Céline Sciamma is kind of moving away from the kind of studio system of making movies. But making this disc even sweeter is the fact that you get another feature film in the special features. You get the film My Life as a Zucchini, or as we call it here, My Life as a Courgette, because we don't use the word zucchini here in the UK, and they don't in France, by the way. But that's an Oscar-nominated stop-motion movie. It's very good, very well done. It was written by Sciamma. It's also a great one to do as a double bill with Petit Mama, because it's about family members struggling through, difficult things. Moving on, we have the film Medicine for Melancholy. This is the directorial debut from Barry Jenkins, the Oscar-winning director who made the film Moonlight. He's made other films. In fact, I've got another one here, If Beale Street Could Talk, which I just picked off the shelf to rewatch. I think this is a great one, and I can't wait to see what he does next. But this is where it all began. It's from 2008. It's a romance story, basically just following these two characters who are talking. There's a bit of philosophizing, which, it feels very much kind of like a French movie in a way. The kind of Jean-Luc Godard, Truffaut. Now, it's described as a lo-fi romance, and that's because the film was shot on a standard definition digital camera from the time, quite low budget. And unfortunately, that really kind of shows in the image. It gives it its own aesthetic, sure, it's kind of very much a time capsule. You see these characters connecting on MySpace, which is obviously very much a time capsule. So the film itself is not going to do anything to blow you away in terms of high fidelity of the image, but it is very well directed. It has an audio commentary made just for this release from Barry Jenkins and an older one from the time when the movie was made. The film is a bit rough around the edges. I wouldn't describe it as excellent. It's very much in that kind of mumblecore period that we went through in independent cinema. But it's interesting to see where Jenkins started as a director, and I had a good time with this disc. And next I picked up The Watermelon Woman from Cheryl Dunye. This was a discovery for me. I'd never seen this one before, and I had a great time with this one. It stars Dunye herself, who is a filmmaker. She's making a film within this film about a 1930s African-American actress who was always seen as the mammy in these older movies. She was never really given a credit on these movies. While she is making this film, she's working at a video store with one of her good friends, and she ends up meeting this girl that comes into the store, except she's white, and it questions her own beliefs about why do a lot of these lesbian couples tend to stick within their races. It's interesting because obviously I am not a black lesbian, so I don't directly relate to the characters in this movie, but even so, I can empathize, I can relate to the emotions that are felt by the characters. So while I found it a great movie, I can only imagine if you can directly relate to the characters in this film, just how important this might become for you. The film looks great, great special features on the Criterion package, including some short films from Dunye. So very happy with this one, a great blind buy for me. So those were the Criterion discs I picked up during last month. Do let me know what you think of any of these titles if you have seen them, and if you have any further recommendations for me, then just let me know in the comments section below. And remember, if you're in the UK and you want to pick up some of these at some great prices right now, do go over to Boutique Home Video. I'll include a link in the description. Click the video on screen now if you want to stick around for more Criterion recommendations on this channel. And with that said, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.